All
Hi.
right. So I'm going to introduce you now.
Okay.
So, first and foremost, thank you everyone who is joining us today on the Woolfer Live, which is also known as Woolfer TV. We're excited to keep growing this aspect of the platform. And as you may or may not know, I am now conducting weekly chats Monday afternoons at 1 o'clock Pacific time, and then figure forward to whatever time zone you're in. So, thank you for taking some time out to join us today. I am ecstatic to today be welcoming um, someone who's very dear to me, both personally and professionally, and that is my mother, Dee Dee Bridgewater. So, welcome, Mom. Happy belated Mother's Day, even though we spoke yesterday, but
Ye-
glad to have you on.
Yes, thank you, my Donager, my daughter, for all of the listeners. That is a combination of daughter and manager because Talani is my personal manager and my daughter. So Donager, but no one seems to want to catch that. Momager on good, but Donager, they go what? At any rate,
I know, but that's okay. We're going to make it stick. But I figure for some of the folks out there who maybe are a little less familiar with you, though, to me it seems implausible that anyone would be. My mother, Dee Dee Bridgewater, is let's see, let's start at the beginning. She's a Tony Award winner for her role as Glinda the Good Witch in the Broadway production of The Wiz. She is a multiple Grammy Award winner, both as a vocalist but also as a producer. She produces her own albums on her own imprint, DDB Records. She is a UN Goodwill Ambassador for the Food and Agriculture Organization. She is an NEA, National Endowments for the Arts, Jazz Master. She is also a Doris Duke Charitable Foundation Award recipient.
majority
She,
artists. That's how they like
excuse
it.
me,
And
artist.
they-
Yes, and she's also an inductee in the Memphis Music Hall of Fame. She has the highest order for the Commandeur des Arts et des Lettres. She has been inducted into the Haut Conseil of the Francophonie. She is a double honorary doctorate recipient, and on and on and on. So you kind of get the point. She's much lauded and really fantastically talented, but and just kind of covering all the bases, as well as being an activist and at the beginning stages of really spearheading her own efforts in that nonprofit arena with a project that we may or may not discuss here, and I'll leave it nameless. But
Well, we
woo, now that I'm out of breath.
well, that I was going to say they could just go online and look at everything, but you had to spell it out.
Well, I'm going to wear both hats of being both your daughter and your manager. I'm being your Donager full
They,
force today. So yes, you can log on to her website. You can Google her, find her on Twitter, Instagram, and so forth. So that's
let's
all great and fine. We're not going to talk about any of that. No, I'm kidding.
get it on. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on. So you and I were talking a little bit earlier, and it kind of made me think about a few things when we were kind of chatting, which we do multiple times a day, almost every day. And I was thinking about how you've really influenced me in a lot of ways. And not only have you forced me into bravery at a very early age, which is something I started doing with my kids, but you also made me, it changed and shaped my worldview and in every conceivable way. So you are one of the hardest working people I know. And even during the pandemic, you're still actually working really hard. You're working to the maximum capacity that you probably can in your position. But what that kind of taught me is like, if you want something, the expectation is you're going to work for it and you're going to work really hard for it. And the measure of those efforts isn't always success, but it's really accomplishment. And so I really have valued accomplishment over
Yes.
success. And I want to kind of have you tell me what all that means to you and how you came to that.
Well, I mean, I think most of this came from my mom, and that's what we were talking about. My mother told me that what was important was to get something done, and that if you got it done and you did it well, that accolades could come from it. But the most important thing was doing something and doing it to the best of your ability. And so I guess that combined with probably my Catholic upbringing, which just kind of stays in the back of my head. I just have always, I was always taught that, whether it was in school or at home, that it's about our work ethic and just to do the best that I could. It was like my mom always said, it's not about for clothes and fashion. She said, it's not about buying the latest thing. It's about buying the best thing. She said, it's always better to spend more money and get one good outfit, one classic outfit that you can wear through the years that's going to stay with you, instead of getting some trendy clothes that, if you wash them a few times, they're going to fall apart. And so I think you can take that same ethic and apply it to our work ethic. And it's just something that I've tried to instill in you, and China, and even Gabe, and in when I'm talking with a lot of young singers, I just try to tell them, and musicians, now, because I'm just trying to work with people, young people who are in the industry. So it can be someone who is a singer. And I just said in an interview the other day, I'd like to be considered a musician. I don't like this whole singer musician separation thing. But no matter what we do in life in general, we have to do it 100%, because that's where we're going to see the reward, and people, I think a lot of young people today want instant gratification. I didn't grow up that way. I didn't grow up looking for instant gratification, because a lot of times I didn't get it. I grew up knowing that if I worked really hard, like I was a straight A student, because I wanted to be the best that I could be. But I also grew up at a time where it was really black and white. And meaning that I was in a black world, and then there was the white world. And I knew growing up that if I wanted to accomplish that, I had to do twice as much as my white counterpart, because that's just the way our society was when I was growing up. And I think a lot of children people who are your age, you have benefited from your parents who were my age, who came through like the civil rights movement. Like I was like on the end of it, but I was like a part of the whole Black Panther movement and that civil rights movement, and learning about our legal rights. The Panthers put out a newsletter, and every newsletter they would put out some different aspect of legal rights and knowing your legal rights. So I grew up with that, so I was able to then turn that on to you, and
Well,
I think
but I think one of the big things for me was that you didn't talk about it. You know what I mean? The big lessons that I learned from you, yes, there was talking involved, but it was that I saw you doing it. So
yeah,
you were very much living your principles, and you're living your values. And even when things go sideways, as they do in life, and even when things don't go in the direction you anticipate them going, in the adversity, and even in those moments of either hardship or confusion or whatever, you still really were purposeful about making it known that you were living according to your values and what you believed was right, and that your commitment, was really coming from within. And the other thing I've always admired is that when you're wrong, you say you're wrong and you commit yourself to rectifying that wrong. And I think that's something a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing. They haven't found it within themselves to really land there, but that's something that I know I've taken from you. So thank you for that, because sometimes it's the most liberating thing in the world to say, you know what, I was wrong. Let me fix this.
Yeah. It's I just think that it's important to acknowledge, when you've made a mistake, when you're wrong, especially when you get to a position where you have some kind of leadership and people are looking up to you. I think it would behoove you not to be that kind of person who can be bigger than themselves and say, "Ooh, my bad, I was wrong. I was really wrong," and also being able to say, "I'm sorry," and apologize. You know, that takes courage, and that takes a big person. So you have to. What I have found, I guess, what I'm saying, Tulani, is as I have grown as a person, that these are the kinds of things that I have learned. So that here I have landed at a place at 70, which I'll be at the end of this month, where I can proudly say, yeah, I've been wrong, because I'm human. And a lot of times, we base our decisions on what we think is concrete information, and then we can go back and find out, oops, that wasn't right. you
Mhm.
know and so being able to say that, I think, also lets the people that you have to correct yourself with understand that you are a human being and that you are fallible just like they are. And it
Yeah.
also lend itself to people feeling that you are more trustworthy because you will be honest in that way.
Well, and so that kind of goes into the next thing, is that you really were very vocal and really insistent that all of us, and when Dee Dee, when my mom mentioned China and Gabriel, those are my siblings. So I have a sister China and I have a brother Gabriel, both younger and wonderfully talented in their own rights, and they're musicians. And China also has a radio program, and she's been a television personality, and Gabriel's a musician and a composer. And so there's something that you hammered into us, which was respect. And respect, I think people sometimes don't fully understand respect means. And it's something that I've seen with you both on stage and off stage. So on stage, you respect the audience. You are always acknowledging that they spent their time and their money, and they brought their bodies to a space to listen to your music and to support you and the other musicians on the stage with you. And
Yeah.
you also respect the people who make that possible. So the people who are behind the scenes.
Yes.
You spend time after each show talking to whomever is going to take the time to come and speak with you. But it's also the person who picks up the trash at the hotel you're staying in, the housekeeping staff, the waiters, the busboys. And it's really about not only acknowledging, but really respecting everyone. And so as a consequence, you've never thought you were better than anyone, and you've never thought that anyone was lesser than anyone. And that's something that I know has really shaped the way that I look at the world and other people. And I wish more people would do that.
It's important. Now we're calling a lot of these people that I respect our essential workers. you know and I think, isn't this interesting? I was just thinking that today. Everyone's going around, oh, thank you to our essential workers. But if you thank these people who are in these positions that we have a tendency to ignore, if you thank them in your own personal life, if you have situations where you have to interact with these people, then this situation that we find ourselves in today, you don't have to necessarily, go out of your way to do it, because it's something that you've been doing. I love to go out, for example, a small example. I like to go out sometimes and take my garbage out, my trash, at the time that the trash guys are coming by, because I like to say hi. And I like to say, how you doing? Thank you for picking up my trash. And I've been doing this before this happened, you know? And I think the thing that I'm trying to get to is, if we respect even the smallest person, we never know when that is going to turn itself around and come back to us as a blessing. And it's just acknowledging that we are all human beings. And just appreciating everybody. I always, when I did theater, I was always I was always very what's the word I'm looking for? It was always really important to me to connect with the set designers, the people that were behind, the people that are working on the costumes, our dressers, anybody that was in any kind of production, the electricians, all of those people that made it possible for whatever show I was doing to be, those were the people who were important to me. Those people a lot of times were more important to me than the people that I was on stage with, because a lot of times the people I was on stage with had ego issues. They were very selfish and self-centered, and I didn't want to be around those people. I had to be around those people, so I had to learn how to do that graciously. But I was more interested in the nuts and bolts people, because it's those nuts and bolts people that are going to have your back if there's ever a problem. So
Well,
when it was in where it was a problem, it was the production people that would come and get me and pull my coat.
yeah. And
You
I
know?
think I just want to like touch on something, because I think that brings up something that a lot of people don't really know about you, which is, first of all, you were born in Memphis. Your dad was a musician and a high school teacher, and he had a radio show, and grandma at the time was a housewife, and then went on to become a secretary, and when they separated she worked for an attorney, but then she spent 27 years working at General Motors, and she was a customer service rep, which basically means she answered answered all the questions and complaints that people had about Buicks. And then who I grew up with, my grandpa Shed, was an electrical contractor. Mm-hmm. And so I think that there's and I spent my summers with them largely, and then on my dad's side, they were upholsterer, teacher, whatever. So the point being, there's an attitude of what I think people term as like blue collar that I think really informs things. So being born in Memphis, growing up in Flint, Michigan, which is like so not a glamorous place to grow up, at all. But, it's a lot of honest, like they say, the honest, hardworking people. But I think that attitude really helps people think correctly about everyone they find alongside of them. And especially in Flint, where everybody was working. So it didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter what you looked like. It didn't matter your religion. It didn't matter I always joke with people that one of the most racially diverse and aside from what's been in the recent news, peacefully coexistent places I ever spent a great amount of time was Flint, Michigan, which gets such a horrible rap.
When I was a little girl, everybody had their own community. So, you had your Black community, you had your white community, but I mean, it was deep. We had Polish community, we had Hungarian community, we had Mexican community, we had Chinese community. We had all of these communities. And we didn't think about it in terms of any kind of racial thing. It's just people living with their people. Mm-hmm. But I remember when my mom wanted to have some kind of special meal, we would drive into that community and we would eat at one of their restaurants. So I grew up knowing about Polish food and Hungarian food, Mexican food. When I went back to Flint for my 50th class reunion, the Chinese restaurant that we used to get our food from, that Dad would do electrical work for, it still is there. It was still there. I was stunned. But we never thought about it in terms of anything racist. It was just, everybody was just in their own community, but everybody intermingled. And I thought that was wonderful. So it was a healthy way to grow up. And I always say I'm very proud to be from Flint, because there wasn't so much to do culturally. It allowed me to daydream in a way that I don't know that I would have if I had lived in a city where maybe I would have daydreamed even bigger if I'd lived in a big metropolis city, but I don't know what my life would have been, and I just, we have to deal with the hand we've been dealt. So this was where I grew up. And And I'm proud to be a Midwesterner. Midwesterners are really nice people. Midwesterners, I mean, we are really, really a nice people. And anytime I meet somebody from the Midwest, we can always tell, oh yeah, yeah, you are, because we're open, we're caring people, we're giving people, and we don't look at things so black and white. You know, we look at people as just individuals. And yes, we are hardworking people. You know, so I grew up around other hardworking families. You know, everybody in our neighborhood, both parents worked. It was rare to have a friend whose mother didn't work because she could stay home and just take care of the kids. Everybody I knew worked, and that
So,
was.
so I wonder, because you fast forward and now you've put your feet on, I think, almost every continent. You haven't been to Antarctica yet, but that could happen. Um, so I'm wondering, like,
There has been no COVID-19.
yeah. but, but I'm wondering, everything that feeds into who we are and that we carry with us obviously informs how we interact with the world. And you've stood on some of the most celebrated stages on the planet, as well as playing some of the more humble venues on the planet, depending on the phase and stage of your career or what the project required. But I'm wondering, you know, how it feels to be, I mean, I know you always wanted to travel the world. That was part of your big dream, and now you're doing it. And so you've managed to come from this very humble place to reach, I mean, I think you dream pretty big. You can always dream bigger, I guess, but I mean, you've done it and then a lot more.
Well, you know, it's the thing that I try to tell you, and you know, I try to tell young people, dream and dream big. I have realized every dream I ever dreamed, you know, so it's prompted me to dream new dreams. And you know, so we're in the process of dealing with one of my newer dreams right now. But I think it's just really important to dream. I think we all should dream and follow those dreams and fight for those dreams. You know, I always say to people, you know, if you're going to go down with the ship, it better be the one that you built.
Mm, yeah.
You know, so as an artist, you need to learn how to defend your art, so that if you're going to go down, you know, go down with the thing that you know you believed in, and not something that you were forced into. You know, so that was something that was really, really important to me. And that was something that even before I started producing myself, um, I was really, I could be quite a thorn in the side of the record label that I was with, if I didn't believe in something that I was doing. And I just wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? I mean, you've been with me, for
Oh,
example, we were in DC, and uh, it was the Kennedy Center Honors. And we were supposed to go and shake hands with the president. And, and that particular president, I was not interested in shaking the hands.
yeah. One of our former presidents who shall remain.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I said to you, I'm not going. And you're like, Mom, you have to go. I said, I don't have to do anything, Tulani.
You know what, though? You also didn't shake the hand of one of our former popes. So, you know what I mean? But I think it's that principle that's so critical, right? Because at the end of everything, we have to live with ourselves.
Yeah. And
And
what's important. I also, there's a country that I will not perform in anymore, because I just don't believe in that, and their policies and what they're doing to their neighbors.
yeah. So, and Lord knows that can apply
You
to
know,
so many.
I think it's really about, you know, sticking to your principles, because anytime I haven't,
Mm,
I have
regretted.
I
Oh,
have always regretted it.
yeah,
And it's always come back to bite me in the butt. Always.
absolutely.
So, you know, I am now thankfully at that place where I can realize it in advance, and then I just don't do it. I just won't do it because I can't. It goes against my principles, my morals, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's something, that we have to really think about no matter what it is that we do is, can I live with this decision? Will I be comfortable with myself? Is this something that I would be proud to share with my children or my family or people who care about me? And if it's not, you got to let it go. The thing also is people can be so afraid
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to get something else if they don't accept this thing,
Yeah.
that go on and subject themselves to something that they don't believe in.
Well,
And
and that,
the Me Too movement.
yeah, I mean, that applies to relationships, jobs. I mean, that applies to really everything.
Yeah.
And I think that, courage is something that you come back to, but there's also resilience and tolerance, right? So you get to a point where you can't tolerate inauthenticity. You get to a point where you can't tolerate capitulation. You get
Mm-hmm.
to a point where the cost of going against who you are at the core of yourself the price is just too high.
Yeah.
And I think that there's in some way there's a little bit of liberation in that,
Yeah.
because you are now free to be yourself because you really have no choice.
Yeah. I've got a mad dog.
Yeah. So my honorary sibling Daisy.
Yes.
Well, I know we're supposed to be coming to the end of this because we're only supposed to do a half an hour, but I could do 50. I know we could do 50 hours. We're going to go a little long with this one because I do want to touch on a couple things, which is obviously the Woolfer community is for women 40 years and older, and I'm gladly and sadly in that category. Mostly gladly.
Okay.
Now
that for a minute, please. 40 and over. Okay, can we just talk about this whole thing, this whole social thing that exists about age?
Yeah.
Please.
Yes.
Hey, okay, so you're in your 40s, okay?
And I'm happy to be in my 40s.
I'm turning 70 in 2 weeks. I am so proud to say my age every year, and I will be the first one to tell people how old I am, and you can find out how old I am if you want to Google me. It's okay because I'm always talking about it. Age is just a way to chronicle how long we have been on this earth. It is also, it allows you to, it means that you have had all of these beautiful experiences and you are still here the older you get, and you're learning more with each year. So I don't think that we as women we got this thing called age. Stop it. Ladies, stop it. You get all on it, and then the next thing you know, you're running and trying to pull your skin back to try and, make yourself look 20. Come on now. Come on.
Well, and I think,
and I think we have women now that are becoming models for us, because these are women who are no longer, they've decided you're going to accept me how I am. They're not doing the facelifts. They are aging gracefully, and they're still getting a job. Do you know what I mean? So it just takes enough women to stand up and say, and so what? Here I am. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. I get
I totally agree.
Old men to go out, and they know I'm about to be 70. So what does that mean?
I think my only issue with this particular, there's Daisy. Hi, sweet girl. My only issue is not about my age or where I find myself. It's purely physical. And by that I mean I get so hot and sweaty. I'm not sleeping the same way I used to. Like, some of the physical aspects of it are a little bit challenging, but I would not trade them, because I often talk to younger women and they're like, oh, don't you wish that you were in your 20s again? I say, oh my God, no. I was working hard, and I was for myself by my terms, I was a hot mess. Like I had so many things to learn. I'm so happy not to be there. But I'm wondering, you know, beyond accepting your age, I think that like being daring and continuing to be daring, because it's shifting now, but we as women over 40 get written off, you know, and we have a lot of talk in the community about the terminology that goes along with being an older woman, and very little of it is complimentary. And so it's about taking that or rejecting it, or whatever is appropriate for you. But I think, you know, and I've had a lot of my girlfriends come and see you perform, and they're always blown away, because I think the expectation of women over a certain age is low. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So here you are on stage running around. I mean, there's a reason why I think one of the inductees with you for Memphis Music Hall of Fame was Tina Turner. It's like, well, yeah, because both of you guys are running all over. You've got tons of energy and you've got a lot to say and contribute. And you're still, I consider you midstream in your career. There's so
Well,
much you're going to do.
well, but here's the thing, because we had this conversation. My new fight is to show the relevancy of a woman who's 70. Okay, so I am very, very deliberate with the way that I dress, the way that I am on the stage, and staying physical. And sometimes on stage, I'm saying, I just want to show all you ladies out there who are my age, you don't have to act like some old image of a grandma.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am a grandmother, but my grandkids think of me as a hip grandma, because I refused to go down that road of becoming some frumpy old broad. I'm not interested. And I don't feel old. So why do I have to act a certain way because of a number that is attached to me? Because of the length of time that I've been on this earth, I'm going to be fabulous. My new role model is Iris Apfel. I'm sorry. I'm going to be like that. You know what I'm saying? So, I want to be that woman that is wise, that the younger people want to come and hang around because she can drop these little pearls, but also she's very hip and she is daring, and she just dares to be whoever she wants to be. I want to be that woman. I want to be her at 80. God willing, if our earth is still here, I want to be her at 90. Do you know what I'm saying? I want you to be proud, and then I want to be the example for you to go on and be your best woman. I can't tell you in China, girl, go on and do this thing, and then I'm sitting back and no. I have to lead by. And I had that example from my mother, your grandmother. We were talking about her early and how fierce she was and how fearless she was. The fact that my mother was 5'3".
On a good day.
Yeah. That's like I say 5'5", and you go, yeah, mom. But she was this little bitty teeny tiny woman, and she was fearless. My mother could talk down a giant. No fear. I saw her do it. Mm-hmm. On occasions. So you learn by example. So that's who I learned from. And remember when I did my African ancestry, and we found out we are 100% descendant of the Fulani tribe, a tribe out of Nigeria, where the woman, the woman is the warrior.
Okay, and that, by the way, first of all, thank you for doing that. We all appreciate it, because it's so important, especially as a Black American, to find your place in things, because that has been erased for so many of us. But also, the fact that it explains so much about us and who we are and how we kind of operate. And then, of course, I'm delighted to tell people anytime I can that I'm Tulani of the Fulani.
Also, a nomadic tribe.
Yeah.
And I have always said, we're gypsies. We're not.
Yeah, well, and I call it itchy feet. Every few years, I just have to move.
Yeah. I'm trying. Till now, I'm trying.
No. Well, and so this is, you and I were talking about this privately, but this situation right now has been really challenging because your whole life has been constructed to not be this. Meaning, and I don't know, for people who don't know, you tour easily 2/3 of the year.
Yeah.
So you're always on a plane, you're always changing cities or countries. And so I kind of look at it like the universe, we're all dealing with our individual stuff the way that we have to, because this is forcing us all to sit down. But for you to be still for this length of time and not due to an injury or something is epic.
And still this long ever, unless it was, like you said, an injury. Yeah. I have not been still this long. I don't remember when I was still this long.
And
but I'm trying to, what I'm trying to do is just to embrace what this is, embrace this time that I am allowed to be in my house and to have some kind of normalcy, like most people consider to be normalcy, and look at it as a blessing. I'm trying to take this whole situation and really embrace it and find the positivity in it, because otherwise it's gonna make me crazy. Do you know what I mean? I'm not ready to go crazy yet, and I already am crazy.
We're all crazy.
Go crazier, but I'm social. What I have seen with this is that I am a social being. I do need to be social, so I social distance. I mean, I will go and sit in front of a friend's house now, and they can be on their porch, and I'm in my car, and we talk, or I'll get out and stand on the street. Do you know what I'm saying? Or I've gone to people's backyards and sat in their backyards. They've come over and sat in my backyard, and because I need that interaction. When we get off the phone, I'm going to my porch concert that's every Monday, because I know this about me. I do need some social interaction. I cannot be in my house by myself every day. Then I would go a little cuckoo.
Well, I think this has been a good opportunity, not only to get to know ourselves and you to get to know yourself, but also to kind of caretake our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health. And then the wonderful thing, because you live outside of New Orleans, is that you're in a place where that thing that you love and that feeds so much of you, not all of you, but so much of you, which is music and community and culture, has found a way, as it always does, to thrive in spite of current events. So
and I think
that's great.
I just heard about a woman who, because of, her desire to have music, and she's well-to-do, and she lives in the Garden District. She has rented a flatbed and is hiring musicians to play on this flatbed, and she's sending them through the entire Garden District, up and down the streets.
That's fabulous.
That's amazing. It's like, I'm determined I'm going to do this thing, because it's just becoming a thing in my head. I'm going to have a concert in my backyard. I'm going to have people come and social distance, and we're just going to play acoustic. But, I've reached out to Nicholas Payton. He's ready to do it. I reached out to Donald Harrison. He's ready to come by. I just sent a text to Tariana, Tank and the Bangers. I'm going to see if Tariana wants to come by. I know a lot of fabulous people down here, and a lot of amazing musicians down here. So I'm going to see if I can pull this thing off, because why not?
Well, why not? And that's kind of the perfect place for us to end it, which is if there were something to put on your gravestone, it would kind of be, why not? ... Yes, comma, I did. Why not?
The thing about our situation now is we cannot let this situation dictate how we are going to be in this situation. We have to take control of it and make it positive. China woke up today saying, I hate this year. I texted her back and I said, hate's awfully strong. We can't be hating. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
So I said, you got to go back and you need to readjust and find a word for me. I said, because otherwise I'm not going to let it go. And so she was like, "Urgh." Okay, I'm not really pleased. You know, I said, okay, that's fine too. I said, but then in the end, the thing that, well, this is what works for me. If I'm given a situation and I know that that situation is not going to change, the best way for this situation to work for me is to embrace this situation, understand it, and then figure out how I can work within this situation. It's like when I ruptured my Achilles tendon and fractured my tibial plateau.
Oh, that was horrible.
But I had to learn how to work with that situation, and I did.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I'm saying? So people were like, well, you can't perform. I was like, the heck I can't.
You're like, well, first of all, you'd done it before, because what other people may not know is you ruptured your Achilles tendon when you were pregnant with Gabriel, and you were on tour and you would go on stage on crutches.
Yeah, I was doing a musical, and what the French called a musical, and I went out and did that musical in office chair on wheels.
Yes.
Because like, oh, Dee Dee, you cannot do this. I said, of course I can do it. And I did it. I said, get me a chair on wheels. I can wheel myself from point A to point B.
Yep. And you accepted your NEA Jazz Masters Award. You were in a, you got wheeled out. You got on those crutches.
But I, Dave Holland, wheelchair.
Yes, Dave Holland behind the wheelchair is something spectacular. We'll never quite get over that.
I haven't crush like that. Oh my gosh, it's been a long time. And I'm so proud of myself that I finally told him that I have. I called him up.
I love that. It's so brave, though. It's so brave.
Out of my system, because I didn't want to see him and act like an idiot and be, I wanted him to understand where it was coming from. So he was like, oh, Dee Dee, I'm so flattered. I'm so flattered, Dee Dee. But, I have a girlfriend. And
You're
I was
like,
like, oh.
It's fine. It's not about that. It's fine.
But I got it out.
Yeah.
So now when I see him, if I see him again, when I did see him once after that, and we chuckled about it. And now I can deal with him.
Yeah.
My new one that I have to deal with is Pat Metheny.
Well, I thought you were going to, so everyone who's watching, WBGO, which is one of the leading radio stations for jazz in the United States, possibly we could say even in the world, had a fabulous auction as part of their 40th anniversary, in which they honored Dee Dee, my mom. And as part of the auction, Pat Metheny had a guitar that he signed and he donated. And if you can believe the absurdity of this situation, Dee Dee and I were bidding against each other to try to get this guitar. And it was so ludicrous, but so typical, because we're both mad women. She won.
Because I got a little bit more money.
Absolutely. And so she had a little more in her pocket than I had. But so she got the guitar, and Pat has agreed to give her guitar lessons. Now,
okay, I had pushed through this whole thing because I've been infatuated with him for years. Ever since he did that movie with David Bowie, I forget. I see it. But at any rate, so a lot of times when I see him, I just couldn't speak to him. I'd be like, so I got this guitar, and then the irony of it is not too long after was when we had the Hancock Institute of Jazz competition, and it was a guitar competition, and then Herbie couldn't do a portion of it, so they asked me if I would introduce the finalists in this competition, and one of the judges was Pat Metheny.
Oh my gosh. The universe will keep doing that to you until you deal with it.
I had to deal with him, and I said, I want you to give me my first guitar lesson. And he said yes. And we were on an elevator, and John Schofield was also on the elevator, and I love John Schofield. And he said, and I will give you every guitar lesson after that. And I
Oh,
was like, think,
okay.
ah.
So this is now the new task that I'm setting out for you is that you have to schedule your guitar lesson.
I had scheduled it for the first week in April, and then that came and went. But I went through a whole period during this when we first had our, our stay at home, our shelter in place, where I felt nothing at all creatively, and I'm just now starting to feel it. So today I picked up my guitar. I picked up the case, I put it on the dining room table, and I opened it up, and I said, now you've gotta make that call. So I'm gonna see if I can schedule some online
I think
uh,
that's
lesson
wonderful.
with him. I've got to, because I have to go through with this.
Absolutely. Because otherwise you'll
Much-
regret it and I'll shame you because that's how we work.
So that's my new thing. And also, I'm tired of looking at all these folk like yourself who can play an instrument and sing. And there's nothing that says that I can't do that at 70.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
look, Sheila Jordan learned how to drive. I think Sheila was 68.
Yep. Gosh, I love her. Yeah.
Oh, and look at our hero. Look at our Shiro.
Mhm.
90. Is Sheila getting ready to be 91?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Spectacular. If anyone is not familiar with Sheila Jordan, the vocalist, jazz vocalist, please Google her. She also has written a book called Jazz Child, and she's just fantastically talented and inspirational. And she has
And
been a part of the making of jazz.
herself.
Hmm.
She's traveling by herself. I can't believe
She's
it.
amazing.
So I aspire to be like Sheila. I want
I
to be
think
like,
I think you got that covered. I mean, you two you're pretty neck and neck.
yeah, but I'm just saying, I want to be able to still be moving around by myself. You
I mean, I think you will, and if not, you've got you've got the three of us, your three kids, who will gladly.
you have your own life.
Oh, but we always find time. We always find time for you, Mom.
About one other thing,
Yes.
about wellness.
Yes.
Okay, because I don't know how if well, I am I'm clinically depressed. Okay, that means I'm depressed all the time. I have depression issues, and for 15 years I was on antidepressants and supplements for antidepressant medication because my medication wasn't strong enough. Um, and I, with the help of a wonderful psychiatrist, finally was able to wean myself off of antidepressants after having been on them for 15 years. So this period, and then I have decided to do therapy because therapy I found has been very helpful for me, and also being vocal about being a depressive, I find to be very helpful for me. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I think that we're in a time right now where a lot of people are going to be dealing with depression, and depression makes us, not want to get up. It makes us not want to get dressed. It just makes us just want to stay in a hole, and the world is dark. And I have found during this period, the thing that makes me feel good, because I know that I'm still depressed and I have moments where I just have to shut down. Tulani, you taught me something. You said, Mama, put on instead of, your notification that you're taking a day and that you'll be back, and don't worry, I'm still here, you
Hmm.
know, that on my notification. So whenever I shut down my phone, when I don't feel like being bothered, that's what people get. And but what I have also found is I had to start going back to therapy. So I'm doing this teletherapy, and it has been so helpful because instead of me telling you or my friends, about my issues. I'm now back to discussing my issues with a therapist, and that has been very helpful. I'm doing my third session this week, so I guess what I want to say to people is talk when you feel like you're down and you're in a deep hole. Please reach out, and also to people who know that someone could be having some issues, reach out to that person. It's really important. You don't know how helpful your words can be to a person when they're in a dark space, but you could actually keep somebody from ending their lives. And I had a situation like that where I had to talk somebody off the ledge recently, and because of that, they're now seeking help. And then I was talking with someone who is also a depressive, who is on medication, and this is a young person, and I asked that person if they could reach out to this other person,
Mm-hmm.
this person out. So we've got to be mindful of each other during this period in terms of wellness, because some people are stronger and can deal better. So we got to be sensitive to our friends, and,
Yeah.
and know that it's okay also to feel this way,
Well, I think it's important, when you talk about it, especially when you're considered a public person, to talk about what health and wellness and mental wellness and emotional health is really important, because it doesn't have to be something that is stigmatized or something that we need to be ashamed of. And I struggle with clinical anxiety. I know, Daisy. Yes,
That's
Daisy is an emotional support dog. So she's not just cute, but she also
yes, this is her job, and she does.
Boy, does she do it well. If you don't want to get out of bed, have a Daisy. Holy moly, she will force you out.
She will. Yeah. But maybe you could do a wellness.
Well, we did. So I did a talk on functional wellness, which kind of addresses the whole person as far as medical health and wellness. And Nina is going to be speaking to someone, if she hasn't already, days kind of blend in, about telemedicine for mental health and wellness. But it may be something to discuss, a little bit more in depth. I think it's one of those conversations you can continue to have. You don't need to have it just one time. You can have it repeatedly.
Right.
Especially because we just don't know. We don't know how much longer this is going to go on, but also I would hope, all the things that you said about reaching out and being concerned for one another is something that will carry out of this. I'm hoping that we will have increased sensitivity to one another. I hope that I like to say to a lot of my friends get very disparaged, especially when they read the news. And I try to remind them that you're hearing the bad news, because hearing the good news, unless you really go searching for it, isn't compelling to a lot of the outlets, and it's not the thing that gets the blood up, so to speak. So we don't hear about the quiet, beautiful things that are happening right now, of which there are very, very many. So try and bear that in mind to keep things in context, because it's hard to keep things in context when we're staying at home.
I have a friend who was really distraught because a friend of hers did commit suicide, and this was on Friday. And it was a guy, and he had reached out to my friend, and she was going through her own stuff, and so she hadn't responded, and so she's now feeling guilt.
Sure.
Because she didn't reach out. So I've been saying to her, yes, but you were in your moment, and you can't blame yourself for someone making that unfortunate choice to end their lives, so there's that too. There's a lot of this.
There is
But
a lot.
and sometimes it just takes a minute, and we can get so caught up in ourselves. I guess that's what I want to say. We can get so caught up in ourselves that we don't think about going outside of our own personal issues and just picking up that phone and making that call. just if you feel it, do it.
Hmm.
Make the call, because a lot of times we feel these things and then we ignore them.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
operate your feelings.
Absolutely. All
Oh,
right. Well,
I guess we're done.
yeah, but I want to just, I'm going to leave with something that I know many people don't know about, but I find hysterical, and we're not going to go into it too much. But you were briefly the star of a soap opera.
Oh, why do you want to go there?
Because I think it's one of those anecdotal pieces that's really funny, because I think, like, they have the EGOT thing where it's like the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. You've got that. Maybe you haven't got the awards, but man, you've really touched on all the bases, including soap opera. So we're not going to go into it, but that's the Woolfer challenge. If anyone can dig up the name of her character,
Oh
the
my gosh.
network it was on, and the name of the soap opera, I will. Yeah, if you can find that, I personally will send you some CDs. So
Hey, now I'm telling you, they can find that, they have dug.
if you can dig that up, you will get a reward from yours truly. So I challenge all those Wolfers. You know how to reach me on the app and on Facebook. But Mom, thank you so much. Thank you
Oh,
for
you're
taking
welcome,
time.
sweetheart.
This
I'm
has
so
been
happy that you're doing this, and I love you doing this. And I think that this is a whole. I think you could be I think you could have a television show.
well, every mom thinks their child is exceptional, and you're no exception to that. But thank you. And who
No,
knows?
they are exceptional. I do know this. I love you.
I love